So I'm shooting with the Panasonic GH5 right now, which is kind of, in a way, relevant to this video. Um, you know, I personally think, I think everybody would agree that right now, probably the most popular cameras are like the FX3, the Canon C70, Panasonic S5 2X. I mean, GH7 if you're a Micro Four Thirds shooter, like something solid, great autofocus that everybody wants, dynamic range, all the good stuff. I think everybody would probably agree with the fact that those are really solid choices, and depending upon how you shoot, whether you're anamorphic or you shoot mostly spherical, or you're a filmmaker, doing narrative work or documentary work, or you're doing weddings, like you would choose different cameras for different reasons, right? But I think in reality, when your camera absolutely doesn't matter to you at all, when you stop thinking about your camera, when you stop feeling this eagerness to get to YouTube, to watch another camera video, to, figure out what new thing is out, what kind of new technology, what makes your job easier, what's more appropriate to what you're doing, or what gives you the ability to do pretty much anything. I think when you stop caring about that is probably when you have the best camera in your hands. Now, I've been shooting a documentary for the past couple of months. I've been doing everything myself, and I've shot the whole thing with the Panasonic S5, the original S5, and most of it with this lens, with a Minolta 28mm f2.8 vintage lens. And I'm telling you, first of all, this thing's going to be like, I think 90 minutes long when it's finished, and I'm so excited about it. It's about somebody who I know and care about a lot. I met her a long time ago when she was in the hospital. She's an incredible artist, a poet laureate of where she lives for 2 straight years, but so much more than that, like a really important, meaningful artist doing, work that is so contributing and so kind of, transformative for so many people. So I'm excited about that, and also just a fun person. We went to a bunch of different locations. I had to follow her around. She was doing a book tour because she just released a book, or she's in the process of releasing a book. And we went back to her old neighborhood in Washington Heights in Manhattan. We went all over the Hudson Valley where she lives now. I followed her around doing all these performances. We went to different locations to just talk about stuff so I could get footage. I got old footage. I went and got B-roll from different areas without her. It's been pretty incredible. And all I've used is the S5. I've used the tripod maybe twice the whole time. No gimbal, everything handheld, everything handheld. Most of my audio is shot with a Boya shotgun mic on top of this camera. I'm using the Boya right now, the GH5, but most of it was right here on top of the S5. And the audio sounds great. I used all natural light for everything, even indoors. I just found different lighting sources and tried to use everything to my advantage. I only used the light. I took actually this light with me, this little Neewer light. I took that with me when we were outdoors one day, and I was shooting directly into the sun at sundown, and I knew that her face would just be black. So I did use a light that day out by a park, but that was literally the only time I used another light. And, Dimitri Resolve has been my best friend. But the thing that I'm trying to point out is that the whole time, shooting everything manually, the whole time, I never thought about my camera. I just used my camera. I have the settings, like I know this camera like the back of my hand, and I didn't think about it. I didn't feel, that I couldn't do things. I didn't feel, like there were these amazing obstacles that I had to overcome because I had this camera. I mean, filmmaking is about solving problems, right? Like that's what it's about. It's about seeing things in your head, right? Seeing things, within yourself, and then trying to recreate them for the screen, for people to see, trying to make what you feel. And so that's what filmmaking is. And I never felt like this camera didn't, didn't help me in a way that it was like a good partner, that it was limiting me in any kind of way at all. Dynamic range, incredible. The footage on this film looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. And yeah, I shot the whole thing in 4K, 10-bit 422. Just made sure my white balance was proper all the time. I tried to keep my ISO to 640 or 4000 because those are the base ISO for this camera. What else? The stabilization was good enough. I don't like gimbal footage, so I like that handheld look. I like it to be a little shaky sometimes. And other times, if I wanted to hold it still, it probably will look to you like it was shot on a tripod. And again, like I said, the sound was excellent. I wanted it to sound real. In other points, I wanted it to sound very present. And this boy did a great job. I just, situated myself properly where I knew, that I had to situate myself to get what I wanted. And my point, I guess, is that I didn't think about what camera I had. I wasn't thinking about YouTube. I haven't been there that much lately, By the way, I'm like losing subscribers and not making any kind of, money because, what's interesting? This is an aside, and I'm going to digress for a second, but I notice that I still have an excellent click-through rate and an excellent retention rate, but YouTube is obviously not putting my videos out anymore, and I think it's because they're probably like, oh, this guy was shooting posting every day for months and months, making us money. And so the algorithm probably went, he's only here like once a week or less now, so we're not going to put him out there anymore. And also I've had numerous comments where people are like, wow, I'm not getting notifications about your videos anymore. You're not showing up in my feed, where before I was showing up in people's feeds all the time because I was posting and posting and posting. And so I think the YouTube algorithm will punish you, but I don't get, whatever. I digress. Getting back to the camera and making an actual film. I'm also writing a screenplay for a feature film of my own that I'm going to be shooting after this documentary. And working on a documentary made me feel even better about what I have. And it just occurred to me today, actually last night, I completed the timeline for the film. Now, I'm going to make some tweaks. I'm still going to add a little bit of B-roll. I have pretty much all my B-roll, all my cut-ins, everything already. But I went out and I shot a bunch of footage yesterday that I want to sprinkle into this. And, there's still some stuff, like I would call this my first cut. And, I'm just I'm so in love with this camera, with the original S5. I can't imagine using another camera now because why? That's the question I ask myself, why would I want to change? Autofocus, I didn't even think about it for 1 second during this whole film. I didn't need it. I don't mind. I actually enjoy focusing on where I want to focus in the frame. And if you wind up watching this documentary, you'll see it was not easy to film. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I always felt like, I have my skills. I've been working so hard at it for years now. So I haven't felt autofocus was, the fact that I had no autofocus didn't hurt me. I know this camera does have autofocus, but I'm using vintage lenses and I don't ever turn it on. It wouldn't work with these lenses anyway. They're not, connected to the camera electronically. So I didn't feel like that at all. And other than autofocus, I don't need to shoot 6K or 8K. I don't need to shoot open gate. I don't need any of the things that people look at as more modern. It turns on fast. It's got a fast enough readout speed. And honestly, if I know that I'm moving the camera around, I jump into APS-C mode, and then suddenly the readout speed on this camera goes way down. And rolling shutter is not a thing. But I don't do a lot of this anyway. But rolling shutter is not a thing with this camera if you know how to use it. And APS-C mode is killer with this. Especially, obviously, when I'm shooting anamorphic, I'm in APS-C mode the whole time. Like I said, the stabilization, excellent. Really happy with the dynamic range. Like I said, I had no lighting. I was indoors a lot. I was in dark scenarios. I was in incredibly bright scenarios. I had to go to a camp, and it was like crazy sunny all day. We were outdoors almost the whole time. And then suddenly I was indoors where there was like really low light, like it was dark and kind of maroon colored, which is tough on a camera in terms of getting its white balance together and being consistent. So I chose a white balance instead of leaving it on auto so it wouldn't jump around. And it just, the footage looks beautiful, looks gorgeous. So yeah, I think when you have a camera and when you're doing actual real projects and you're not thinking about the camera, you're just happy that it works and that it's allowing you to tell the story. It's allowing you to do your job. It's allowing you to be a creative artist. And it's not getting in your way. It's not like frustrating you. Like anything that would frustrate me about this camera would be something that I would have to look at myself about. Like, what am I not learning or not up to? What skill of mine do I have to work harder on? Because this camera basically gives me everything. Like if you're a cinematographer doing work for like HBO or, Netflix or something like that, chances are you're using a camera that has no stabilization and no autofocus anyway. So if you're into getting into that kind of world, you need to learn those kind of skills. But if you're like, most people, like I'm not shooting for those companies. I mean, the work that I'm doing might wind up there, but I'm not shooting for them. So I can do whatever I want. I got nobody telling me what to do. This serves every need that I have, everything. It doesn't stop me from doing anything. And in fact, I will put the image quality of this camera up with any camera. Any camera. I'll put the image quality next to any camera's image quality. And I'm telling you, this will hold its own. But I feel like that about the GH5. I felt that about the Sony a6400, to be honest with you. Like, I could shoot 4K. It was an 8-bit camera. So, but I was still shooting in S-Log 2. I wasn't shooting in S-Log 3 because it wasn't 10-bit. But this 4K 10-bit 422 shooting always in Vlog, always. And I'm not really messing with the footage that much. I'm, exposing the way I want to expose. And then when I get into DaVinci Resolve, I just put it in the proper color space. And generally, I have to do very little. And I want it to look like a documentary. I want it to look like a movie. I like that style. I don't like a highly contrasty kind of style, too much saturation. I'm not into that. If that's what you're into, then, if that's what I wanted, I would color grade it more aggressively. The point is, to expose and compose your footage the way you want to. And then you have, go into DaVinci Resolve or Premiere or whatever you use, and you have options to do whatever you want to do. But you notice I'm talking about a lot of things, but I'm not talking about the S5 2X or the S1 Mark II or the Canon C50 or the Nikon ZR. I'm not talking about any of those new cameras, and they don't interest me. I mean, they're interesting to me because, I'm a tech nerd. I'm interested in cameras and what they could do. But if you turn around and go, well, what do you think? You're going to buy one? Then I'm like, well, no. Why would I do that? I have the original Panasonic S5. And I'm sure I would feel the same way if I had the GH7, the S5 2X, if I had an FX30, an FX3, Fuji XH2S. If I had any of those amazing cameras, I am certain I would be ecstatic. I love this camera. I upgraded to this camera from the Sony a6400 because I wanted a full frame camera because I shoot a lot in low light. And I wanted a camera that had some stabilization. And to my surprise, this has incredible stabilization, like really good. It looks really natural. And the image quality, which to me is the most important part of any of this. Like I said, I'm so happy with the image quality on this camera. It looks gorgeous, just beautiful. So, yeah, I think when you're out there doing real work, when you're making a movie, when you're making a documentary, when you're shooting a wedding, or when you're shooting whatever you're shooting, if you're not thinking about your camera anymore, if you're bored with that, if you don't care what camera you have anymore because you have something that you can rely upon, that you're grateful to have, that's when you know you have the right camera. Now, if you're out there and you're struggling all the time and you can't seem to get what you want, the first thing I would look at is you. And I would try to think about, like, is it my skills? Is it my understanding of how to expose, how to get a shot, how to get the right composition? Am I not understanding story and structure? And, am I not giving myself the best opportunity to get into my editing software and make a good story? Or is it the camera? Maybe it is. I don't know. That's not for me to say. That's for each individual to say. But in my opinion, if you are no longer thinking about your camera, if you don't care about your camera anymore, you just care enough to keep it. But you know what I'm saying? If you don't care enough, meaning that you're always feeling like you got to change, you got to get the best one, you got to get the newest one. If you don't think all of that, if that's like the last thing on your mind because you're thinking more about the expression of the story that you're telling, is it being put across? Are you getting enough footage? Is everything looking the way you want it to look? Is it feeling the way you want it to feel? Then you have the perfect camera. Your quest is over. You got it. You don't need anything else. Stop looking around. And then when you get to the point where you're feeling like you got all your skills together, you feel really confident in your work as an artist, and this thing is getting in your way for some strange reason, get yourself another camera.